I call today's meeting of the Public Service Subcommittee to order. Madam Secretary, would you please take our roll?
Alexander, Dixie, Eldridge, Johnson, Kiesling, Powers, Rudder,
Here.
Chair Lady, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Do we have any personal orders or recognitions from any of our members? If not, we're going to take up our regular calendar. Item number 1 is House Bill 2929 by Chairman Helton Haynes. We have a motion and a second. There are no amendments. Chair Lady, you're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 2929 eliminates an unused portion of our code that requires the State Building Commission to establish a ratio of water closets in large facilities such as the new Titan Stadium. Instead of doing this, it's going to return it back to the locals where it is currently understood that the international plumbing codes adopted by Tennessee jurisdictions will be the appropriate organization to determine those ratios.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
Question on bill.
Questions been called. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, and you move on to full committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee.
Next, we have item number 2, which is House Bill 2673 by Chairman Farmer. Do we have a motion and a second?
Motion.
He's not in here. Okay, we'll take it off notice. No. We're going to move it we'll move it 2 spaces. 3 spaces. We're going to move it 3 spaces. Okay. Next, we have item number 3, which is House Bill 2373 by Chairman Terry. We have a motion and a second, and we do have an amendment filed. What's your drafting code?
Drafting code is 15611.
Do we have a motion and a second on this amendment? We do. We're going to go ahead, and I think the amendment makes the bill, so let's put the amendment on the bill. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The amendment is on the bill, and Chairman, you're recognized to explain your bill.
All right, thank you, Chairman and Committee. And as this bill is amended, it clarifies that a meeting between state legislators and local governing officials does not constitute a meeting under the Sunshine Law, provided that the meeting is informational or it is to discuss state matters.
Do we have any questions? Questions been called. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it, and you move on to full committee.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
Item number 4 is HJR 830 by Representative Cochran. You have a motion and a second. There's no amendments, and you're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you, Chair Lady. This is simply a resolution honoring the Tennessee rifle. It's a very specific muzzle loading rifle from the 1700s. It has connections both to Leader Lambert's district as well as mine, the family that invented this, and just honoring the history of that rifle to our state. I'll yield any questions.
Do we have any questions? Questions been called. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? You move on to full committee.
Thank you, Chair Lady and Committee.
Next, we have item number 5, which is HB 2864 by Representative Towns. We're going to move this one to the Hill. We're going back to item number 2, which is House Bill 2673. We're also going to move that one to the Hill. Is item number 6, which is HJR 854 by Representative Hill. Do we have a motion? We do. No amendments filed. Representative, you're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee. This is House Joint Resolution 854 requesting that August 11th, 2024 be designated as Sheriff Eddie Tester Day, I'd just like to take a quick moment to tell the committee about my friend Eddie. Eddie was the type of person who did not care what he was doing as long as he was serving. In many ways, he lived the American dream, seeking to serve his community every step of the way. He started out as a CNA at Mountain City Care Center, later became a dispatcher and a deputy for the Johnson County Sheriff's Department. He later joined the Tennessee Highway Patrol for 18 years. In the meantime, he served on the Johnson County Rescue Squad as an EMT, later as a paramedic, and as sheriff for 2 terms before his passing. And I bring the resolution not only to bring comfort to his wife of 35 years and the residents of Johnson County, but as a testament that when servant leaders go, there's an absence that should be reflected on, and his life of service stands as an example. And August 11th, 2024 will mark 1 year since the passing of Sheriff Eddie Tester, and I believe that's something that we should honor. And Madam Chair, with that, I seek passage.
Thank you. Questions been called? All in favor, please say. Next up is item number 7, which is House Bill 2354 by Chairman Zachary. We have a motion. Do we have a second? We do. No amendments filed. Chairman, you're recognized to explain the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, committee members. This simply permanently prohibits governmental entities from requiring masks. That's all it does. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Do we have a question? Representative Dixie,
What if someone wants to wear a mask?
you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. They have the ability to do that. This simply prohibits a governmental entity from requiring masks.
You're recognized.
What if it's in the interest of public safety?
You're recognized.
Again, anybody can wear a mask. Anybody can wear a mask. We've already got it in code now, and there's some exceptions, and so this just makes that permanent.
What are
You're
some of
right.
the exceptions? I'm
You're
sorry.
recognized. You're recognized.
What?
The-
I'm sorry. I'm
Let's
sorry.
go.
I don't know who's recognized. I forgot.
Both of you are recognized. Let's go.
Okay.
At the same, you want us to go at the same time?
There you go.
Currently
What?
in TCA 14, which is the COVID protection bill that we passed in that particular section of the code, there are extreme conditions that exist, and it was an extremely high bar, but it did not make it permanent. And so again, this legislation just removes those extreme conditions, which frankly would probably never be met, and just makes it permanent where no governmental entities, particularly in schools, can require masks again.
Oh, well, I say we did have a pandemic that was a pretty big deal, and I think masks did play a part in the prevention of the spreading of the disease in some form or fashion. And I don't think that taking this away from a school or a state building, giving them that option to protect people is the right thing to do in this particular time. So for that, I would have to. I'm very cautious, and I'm not very excited about this. I think that we need to always have public safety and public health at the forefront of anything we do. And I would hate to do something here that would inhibit us from doing that. So I would be voting against your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your comments. I'm glad you brought all that up because I, again, wasn't going to mention all this, but I will now. On January 10th of 2024, Dr. Fauci admitted social distancing and other measures that were taken to strip the liberties of the people in the United States were not based on science. Dr. Bhattacharya from Stanford said that before the pandemic, there were over a dozen randomized tests and studies of masking that proved there was no prevention of the spread of influenza or any other type of virus that is respiratory. 3 randomized studies have been conducted during the pandemic. All of them find no effect on masking and stopping a virus. Dr. Martin Kulldorff of Stanford Yale said during COVID, science entered the dark ages. Even though there were many advances at the same time, you couldn't say that the powers that be, the hierarchy, such as Dr. Fauci, you couldn't contradict them without being excommunicated. Experts such as myself, Dr. Kulldorff, Dr. Bhattacharya, Dr. Risch of Yale, the most cited epidemiologist in history, were relegated to the back bench because of the efforts by the government. And so I think that clearly, if we listen to the science, follow the science and listen to the experts, that it has been proven that what was done during the pandemic was not effective. Actually, has caused more harm, which is why 30% of Tennesseans are in mental health crisis today. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You have another question?
Yeah, well, kind of, sort of, even, and thank you for those facts, but it amazes me how we use that information. But when we were going through COVID, people who had no scientific training overnight became scientists and experts in this field. And I just got one quick question for you. If you don't believe that coverings prevent the spread of disease, why do people cover their mouth and nose when they sneeze?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's irrelevant to the bill. So,
No,
so
it's
hey,
not.
don't interrupt me because I've been
Hey,
recognized.
what are you
No,
talking
no,
to
no,
like
no,
that?
no,
You
no.
don't talk to me like that. Don't ever talk to me like that ever in
Don't
your
you
life
interrupt me when
again.
I'm-
I'm telling you, don't you ever face. So you come, I don't know who you think you talk to. I'm a man, and you don't talk to men like that.
We're going to take a recess.
Don't ever forget. I apologize for that outburst.
We're going to go back. We're going to go back into session, and I want to ask both of you gentlemen to please remember where you are and what we're trying to do here. And let's do not make this personal. Please. Now, where were we? You called for question. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, and you move on to full
Thank you, Madam Chair,
committee.
committee.
Thank you. Next up is item number 8, which is House Bill 2890 by Chairman Halsey. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second? There are no amendments filed, so Chairman, you're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you so much, and thank you, committee, and thank you, Chairman. I've got to tell you up front, this morning in the Senate, they heard this bill, and in the meantime, or last week, the Senate had requested an opinion from the Attorney General on this bill, and he did not send back a favorable opinion. So they have sent this bill to summer study. They promised that it would be a thorough one. I want you to know that the bill was written by this gentleman over here in the corner, Mr. Jeff Cobble. He's a lawyer out of Greenville, but he received his law degree from Harvard and wrote this bill. There's a question sometimes, and I covered this last year when I was before you, and very gracious and gave me time on whether you can even go down the road of nullifying something from the federal government. But if you read what the framers said and the founder said, yes, you have every right to do that. As a matter of fact, if you read the Federalist Papers, and if you know what the Federalist Papers are, there were 3 men, Madison, Hamilton, and John Jay, who wrote letters to editors of newspapers in New York. And they thought if New York would sign on to the Constitution, everybody else would too. So they dealt with issues that the people were worried about that the federal government, this newly created government, could do or could not do. One of those issues is who gets to interpret what's constitutional and not. Well, you and I have been programmed in the last 60, 80 years to believe only the Supreme Court can do that. But that's not what those boys said. In the Federalist Papers, I think in number 16 and 43, this is what they said. The people and state legislatures is who most apt and most suitable to interpret whether something is constitutional or not. Then the issue becomes, what do you do with something that is not constitutional? Well, Jefferson and all the rest of those boys said, well, you nullify it. That's what you do. Because if it's not constitutional, then it doesn't abide by the principles of the Constitution, then it's not law at all. And so nullification just means you're going to ignore it. saying we're not going to use any money from our state to spend to get it done. We're not going to support it. We're not going to endorse it. We're not going to do it. That's nullification. By the way, I want to read to you 3 years ago. This is a resolution from the Speaker of the House and Lieutenant Governor 3 years ago. A resolution to address the federal government's penalizing or taxation of citizens of this state through enforcement of restrictions relative to COVID-19 by supporting the challenging, condemning, and nullifying of such action. This document or this resolution goes down and shows how the federal government acted outside their lanes in this order out of the president's mouth that everybody's going to get a shot. And by the way, you do understand that an executive order is only supposed to be for the executive branch. If you try to apply it to people, then it becomes law and the president can't make law. This is a resolution to nullify an action out of Washington, and 64 folks in the House of Representatives signed it. So nullification is not a new thing. It is one of the ways you can deal with things that come out of Washington that are out of their bailiwick and they're unconstitutional, or they are things they are doing that are not enumerated in the Constitution that they can mess around in. So that's what this bill was all about. It actually didn't force the legislature to do anything. It just said, if you're going to nullify, here's 5 ways to do it. That's what the bill says. I'm sorry that I'm going to have to ask you to let me take it off notice because the Senate has already killed it. Well, they said they're going to semi-study it, and I'm going to try and hold them to it. So I do appreciate your grace in allowing me to say what I said, but I'd like to remove or take this bill off notice.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
I want to make a clarification. I said House Bill 2890, but it's actually House Bill 2795. I want to make that clarification for the record. And House Bill 2795 is off notice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next up, we have okay. House Bill, item number 9, House Bill 2694 by Chairman Doggett. We have a motion and a second, and there are no amendments filed. So Chairman, please explain your bill to us.
Thank you, Chair Lady and members of the committee. As the previous presenter spoke, I'm nowhere near as elegant as what he is. He's extremely sharp, and he does a really good job. The bill that I have before you is similar in idea as to what the previous presenter had. These bills were no way, shape, form, or fashion meant to be competitors. This is something that both Chairman Halsey and I are deeply passionate about. And so this was my third attempt at something along these lines. I've been before you 2 previous times. And so to really address the issue of state sovereignty. What's the road that we take to get there? We're still working on it. But, you know, I feel like at this time, with all the work that we've done, I think it would be appropriate that we take this bill off notice and, Lord willing, regroup and see what we can do in the year to come.
Thank you, Chairman Doggett.
Hey, thank you all.
Do we have any questions from our members? Oh, you missed that. You want to take it off? You want to take
Yes,
it off
ma'am.
notice?
If it's okay with the committee,
Okay.
I'd just like to take this off notice and continue the conversations and look forward to working with you all if we're
At
back
another
again
time.
next year. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
House Bill 2694 is off notice. Okay, at this time, we're going to go back to item number 5, which is House Bill 2864 by Representative Towns. Do we have a motion and a second on this bill? We do, and there's no amendments filed. So Representative, please explain your bill.
Madam Chair, thank you all. Thank each of y'all. As you know, throughout the state, we have, a state tree, state bird, got a state slaw, happen to be a hot slaw, and this really does not need any explaining because the cuisine is known all over the world. We're talking about barbecue, and we want that to be the state meat. I think it passed with swimming colors over on the center side. I mean, and it's a deal where in Memphis, you all know that we have this world-renowned contest that goes all over the world, and people from all over the world come in and love our cuisine. And so it's a simple bill. It's a fun bill, but it's a simple bill. But it allows us to put claims on it, like we put claims on what? Jack Daniel and some of these other things. So it's our state meeting. Senator Cowell actually brought it to me. I thought it was a good idea. It may have been prompted by other things that were happening, but it's a great idea, and it's long overdue because that barbecue contest down there is about 35 years old. Should have done a long time ago. And I don't know if y'all remember when I was the chairman. Some of y'all may have been here. You were here when I hosted the entire delegation for the state, both sides, Senate side, House side, families, wives, and everybody had a wonderful time. And I can promise you, they got some of that steak cuisine we were about to make, hopefully, the barbecue. And it's great down there all over the place. So that's really essentially what it is, just claiming what Tennessee has done with our cuisine, our barbecue, and we'd love for it to be the state culinary delicacy is what we'd love for it to be. And with you all support, that's what will happen. And there's one, I'll say again, there's another member and myself, we're trying to figure out how to do a little deal out on the patio one day. And those of you all that have been deprived in your life, never had that steak cuisine down there, we're going to try to bring some up and make sure you sample a little bit. You know what I mean?
We're going to hold you to that.
You got it, Madam Chair. That's really it.
Questions
Thank you
been
very
called
much.
on this bill. Do we have, okay.
Yeah, we're working on it. We are.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye. I'm an aye. And all opposed? The ayes have it, and you move on to full committee.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, each and every one of you. Thank you.
Next up, we have item number 2, which is House Bill 2673 by Chairman Farmer. Do we have a motion and a second on this bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Chairman,
Members,
there was an untimely
Yes.
filed amendment on this bill. However, we don't allow untimely filed amendments to be considered. So would you like to take your bill off notice or present the bill as originally filed?
Madam Chair and members, if I may, could I present the bill as
You sure
filed
may.
and just see how the
You sure may.
committee
Yes, go right ahead. You're recognized.
All right, members and Madam Chair, what this bill does, I had a constituent come to me and he had
Do-
received
Do
an
we have,
entry level.
hold just a minute.
Oh,
We,
sorry.
we did have a motion and a second. Okay.
He had received an entry level discharge from the Navy, and he wanted to apply to be a policeman, and he was turned down because as I understood it, there wasn't a mechanism in the law, a statutory mechanism in the law to allow him to become a police officer, because the statute says if you're not honorably discharged, then you can't maintain employment as a law enforcement officer. So all I've said, I've just had a very short bill that said if a person served in the armed forces of the United States, have received an honorable discharge, entry level separation, which would be my constituent, medical discharge or separation for the convenience of the government, then they'd be able to consider he or she for that position. So I'm a little out of my realm here. I'm trying to just do the right thing. So I'm at the will of the committee.
Do we have any questions? Yes, Representative
I'm not sure
Dixon.
I'm not sure if I missed it or not. You said you have to be honorably discharged or just discharged. I guess I got confused.
Madam Chair,
You're recognized.
you have to be honorably discharged. So if you're just discharged for any of the purposes, for example, if you're just entry level separation, if it just says discharge, as I understand it, it's much more difficult to become a police officer. So I'm trying to add in some, if you have an entry level separation, which that means it could be, it's not for getting in a fight or anything crazy. If you have a medical discharge, maybe it's just something situational that you're going through in life, and and you've taken care of that and you've got past that. You know, I don't think you should be held accountable to that forever. Or just maybe the government says, hey, you know what, we're not a right fit here, so we're just going to discharge you. We're not going to give you an honorable discharge, but you just need to go on and find something better to do for some reason. So I just think that those folks need to have the opportunity to, if they want to serve their communities and protect their communities and their hearts and minds are in the right place, then let's give them the opportunity to do that.
Any more questions? Okay, Chairman Powers.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a real quick one. I remember there were thousands of Tennesseans that left because they wouldn't take the vaccine. I know I've got some friends that did that left the military. Would that include them too? Do you think the ones that left voluntarily because they would not?
And thank you, Chairman Powers. I believe it would.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any more questions? Chairman Kiesling.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Chairman Farmer, should this get out of this committee, then can we expect the amendment to follow into the full committee? Then, would you be willing to?
Yes, Madam Chair. And Chairman Kiesling, that's what I'd anticipate doing. The amendment wouldn't make a substantive change to this, and I respect the rules of this committee, but I think it's something we could probably deal with.
Well, I was going to ask, is it going to be substantive or not? So you're saying it is? It would not.
It would not.
Okay. No. That's all I have. Thank you, Chairman Farmer. Thank you, Madam.
Questions been called. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We have one opposed. Please see the clerk if you want to be
Thank you, Madam Chair.
recorded.
Members, I appreciate you.
And you move on to
patience.
full committee.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're headed to item number 10, which is House Bill 2934 by Representative Bricken. Do we have a motion and a second? We do. And there are no amendments. So Chairman, you're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and committee members. Last year, the General Assembly passed a law that required county and city legislative bodies to make an agenda available to the public at least 48 hours before its meeting. This became Section 110 of the Open Meetings Law. Today's bill would add state boards, state commissions, and state councils to that part of the law, so they too would have to make agendas available to the public before meetings. The law allows putting the agenda on the government's website to meet this requirement. With that explanation, I renew my motion.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Okay, we're ready to vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Your bill moves on to full committee.
Thank you, committee.
Next up is House Bill item number 11, House Bill 2202 by Representative Miller. Do we have a motion and a second on this bill? We do. Representative Miller, I believe you have a drafting code. There is an amendment.
Yes, it is 015075.
Yes. Do we have a motion and a second on this amendment? The amendment makes the bill, so we're going to go ahead and put it on the bill. So those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The amendment goes on the bill, and Representative, you're recognized to explain this bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. It's pretty much self-explanatory. Section 31106 is amended by deleting the language $1,250 and substituting instead $2,250. I mean, inflation is real, it's here, and pretty self-explanatory.
Okay. Representative Alexander, do you have a question?
How long has it been since we updated our General Assembly allowance for members for their home office? How long has it been? I mean, $1,000 is a big jump considering The
I'm
first
gonna- I'm-
original amount you got was 1,250. So to jump at another 1,000, I just wanted to know how long it's been. Has it been a long time or something?
Yes, a long time.
Okay. Can you?
But I can't give you 10 years, 15 years, but it's been quite a long time.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions? Question's been called. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, and the bill moves on to full committee. Item number 12, which is House Bill 2674 by Representative Shaw. Do we have we have a motion? Do we have a second? There are no amendments. Representative, please explain your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, this bill help to provide better service for our citizens of the state of Tennessee in many ways. What the legislation is proposing to do is to give the chief procurement officer a chance to develop regulations, policies, procedures, templates, and other guidelines related to acquisitions of information systems and software, as well as authorize coordinations with the Division of the Strategies and Technology Solutions, as well as the Information Systems Councils, and to develop such guidelines. What this would do is, in short and simple terms, is it allowed the state's chief procurement officer to be able to do these things to provide better services for the citizens of the state of Tennessee. It would not change any laws or guidelines. He would just have the opportunity, or she, to make those decisions.
Thank you for
With
that.
that, I would ask for approval.
Thank you for that explanation. Members, do we have any questions? Question's been called. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, and you move on to full committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members.
You're welcome. Next, we have item number 13, which is House Bill 2634 by Representative Baum. Do we have a motion and a second? We have an amendment that's been filed on this bill. Could you give me your drafting code?
It is 014687.
Do we have a motion and a second on this amendment? We do. Well, let's go ahead and put that on the bill. So all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, and the amendment is now on the bill. Representative, would you please explain your bill?
Thank you, Chair Lady Rudder. Several years ago, our General Assembly passed a bill creating transparency in healthcare prices. This is a bill that would take things one step further by providing individuals insured by the state of Tennessee the incentive to shop and select lower prices. Here is how the bill would work. The bill would create an online platform so that an individual who's been insured could go to this platform, type in the procedure that they need, the medical procedure, and online, the webpage would list the different providers of this procedure and their prices, as well as an indicator of the quality from each of these providers. This platform would also indicate what the fair price is for this particular procedure or for any particular procedure. And then if the insured selects one of the providers that's below the fair price, then they would benefit by receiving a portion of the cost savings. Let me just give an example. Let's say you can get an MRI from Vanderbilt for $10,000 or an MRI from Premier for $1,500. Now, suppose the fair price is set at $2,500, then there'd be $1,000 of savings, and the individual who's insured, who selects the lower cost MRI, would get a portion of the savings. This kind of a plan is possible because we have such a wide spread in medical prices. Let me give you a few examples. In the Nashville market, a colonoscopy could cost anywhere from $1,100 to $5,300. A sleep study could cost anywhere from $600 to $4,000. One more example: knee arthroscopy could cost anywhere from $2,600 to $11,000. Anytime you have this kind of a wide dispersion in prices, economic principles suggest that if people have an incentive to shop and select lower prices, this will increase competition. It'll increase competition in an industry that isn't quite as competitive as it needs to. It'll actually, in the long run, result in prices coming down. As insured begin selecting the lower prices, those with higher prices will have to begin to lower their prices to get competitive. So I guess the next thing I want to say is this is really not an idea that's new. It's actually being done in other states. It's actually being done by some municipalities. Some examples are Florida, Texas, Colorado, Kansas, Montana, several other states. In Florida, they started their shared savings plan in 2019. In 2023, to the General Assembly, a report was provided to identify the savings, and this report said in Florida that their shared savings plan saved $44 million. And then in addition to that, rewards to the individuals who had selected the lower cost procedures amounted to $10 million. The rewards would be paid to the insured when they select a lower cost procedure, either in the form of cash or to a contribution to their health savings account or their HRA. So there's different ways that they could receive these benefits. So in closing, I want to point out that this program would be voluntary. If you're insured by the state and you want the MRI from Vanderbilt for $10,000, you can get it. It doesn't affect you at all. But if you want to select the lower cost MRI, in my example, from Premier Radiology for $1,500, if the fair price is set at $2,500, you've saved the state money and you can get a portion of that savings. So it's voluntary. It's for state employees. It doesn't affect the private sector at all. And it's designed to increase competition and in the long run, result in lower healthcare prices. Now, I have an expert from the industry who does exactly this kind of thing for states and municipalities here, Mr. O'Neill. And if you'd be willing, I'd like for him to have 3 minutes to tell you
We
about
cer-
it from an industry expert's perspective.
Certainly, without objection. We'll go out of session to hear from Michael Neal. Is Mr. Neal in the audience? There you are. Please make sure your microphone is on and give your name and who you're with for the record.
Yes.
And you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Baum, and thank you for the subcommittee for allowing me to come today. My name is Michael O'Neill. I am the CEO of Healthcare Blue Book. We founded Healthcare Blue Book in 2007 here in Nashville, Tennessee, for the sole purpose of protecting patients by exposing the truth and empowering choice. Full stop. Over the course of the past 15 years, we have now grown to protect over 7 million patients across this country, across networks, across carriers, across industries, and importantly, for municipalities and state employee plans, including the state of Florida that Representative Baum mentioned. Net savings to the state of Florida through their shared savings program, which we administer and have been validated, net savings, net of all program costs and incentives, are north of $25 million to date. Those are dollars that can go back into the state coffers for ensuring benefit levels stay as they are, improving competitive salaries, adding key hires, or other public initiatives. Let's talk about what we know about costs and quality nationally and in the state of Tennessee. So, as you all know, and as Representative Baum described, prices vary widely without any correlation necessarily to quality. So in this market, you could spend, as I did, $3,000 for a knee arthroscopy at St. Thomas Surgery Center, or as I almost did, close to $13,000 at a different hospital, in the same network, in the same market, for the same procedure, with the same surgeon providing the service, simply a different day of the week and a different building. In this case, Vanderbilt, 1 mile apart. That dynamic is what's occurring across the country, and it's occurring inside the state of Tennessee Health Employee Plan every day. When you look at everything from surgeries to colonoscopies to sleep studies to MRIs to cataract surgery, this is costing the state of Tennessee hundreds of millions of dollars a year that could be flipped to at least tens of millions of savings per year through a shared savings program. We now know unequivocally that the right kind of shared savings programs work. They stem the cost of rising healthcare, and they do so without compromising quality or access. In fact, they do the opposite by connecting more folks with affordable quality care. So as a Tennessee employer, I would encourage this committee to bring this bill forward to the legislature so that the state and all of your employees can actually receive the value that you so deserve for every healthcare dollar you spend. Thank you for your time. Happy to take questions.
Do we have any questions for our guests? Yes, Representative Dixon.
Quick question. In the example that Representative Baum gave, it's like if you have $25 and they're taking $1,500, that difference of $1,000, does that decrease what the physician receives for reimbursement?
That's a great question. May I speak?
You sure may.
That's a great question. Thank you. So in most cases, not at all. So actually, I should say in all cases, not at all. What's occurring is someone is choosing usually to keep and use the same physician, but just get the procedure done in a different building. So the plan is paying out less, but they're paying the negotiated allowed amount to the provider. So there's no change in the contract between the physician or the facility and the plan. It's just that providers in any network, whether it's Blue Cross or Cigna or what have you, have very different prices provider to provider based upon contracting leverage. So it's just helping folks connect to the fair price provider, no change in payment to the provider or the physician.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Chairman Powers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I was looking at the information on the bill. It says on the fiscal note that it's going to increase our expenditures 4.2 million and then 7.7 million from here on out. So I'm just thinking if we're going through a savings program, we're going to be saving millions of dollars a year. Why do you think that it's looking like we're expending actually more money?
Correct. So in our experience, it is not a net expense. It's the actual opposite. So having done this for 4+ years with the state of Florida and with employers across the country, all of our programs, any appropriate shared savings program should have a savings guarantee in the first year, net of all program fees. So the savings opportunity net would be $25 million, inclusive of program costs, additional staff, or incentives.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Have any more questions for our guest? Yes, Representative Alexander.
Can you tell me how many other vendors are in the United States like yourself that sell this
Certainly,
service?
certainly. So we're the largest and longest established, but there are, I would say, probably half a dozen viable vendors who do this in some form or fashion for different segments of the economy.
And how long have you been doing it? You may have
Since-
said that earlier, Ellen. I'm
No,
sorry.
certainly. We founded the company in Nashville in 2007.
In
Same
2000
ownership and leadership that entire time.
Okay. And how large is your company? How many people do you employ?
We employ about 170 people in the state of Tennessee.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
Chairman Kelsey. Keesling.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have any questions to Mr. O'Neill. However, do we have anyone else from maybe the administration
We
that
do.
is enlisted for
Yes, we do.
testimony
We
today?
have someone from F&A.
Okay, well then I'll withhold questions then.
Okay. Any more questions
Thank-
for Mr. O'Neill? Thank you for being here. Thank
Thank
you
you for
so
your time.
much. While we're out of session, we'll go ahead and call up Sarah Noel. Make sure your mic is on. Identify yourself and who you're with for the record.
There we go.
You have
Sarah Noel, Department of Finance and Administration. I am available for questions. So whatever y'all might have for me, I would be more than willing to answer.
Chairman Keesling.
Okay, Sarah, thank you, Madam Chair. Sarah, you heard. If you was there anything misleading in the previous testimony?
So I wouldn't necessarily, I don't want to speak to the misleading portion of this, but I would say that Benefits Administration spends a lot of time looking at what we offer our state employees. And we have a process where our insurance committee reviews different plans that are out there, and we determine what is best fit for our members. We have reviewed plans like this, very similar shared savings issues like this, and we have decided that is not the most cost-effective plan for our members. So the fiscal note does ring true to our concerns. It would be a heavy lift for our benefits team, but also to something that our insurance committees have not wanted to participate in.
Madam Chair. Okay, now let's go back to you were talking about the physical note, and of course we're looking at what did you say you differ? Are you're
We agree to the fiscal memo that is on the amendment, and to the gentleman's point of it bringing in revenue or causing some sort of offset, our insurance committees have determined that that would not be the case for the state. So that's kind of where we would differ on that.
Okay. That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Have you all worked together on kind of where you're at with this? I mean, is there?
I spoke with Representative Baum yesterday. I would like to continue having some conversations with him as we continue looking at this issue. Again, Benefits Administration has looked at this throughout the years, and it's something that we would love to discuss with him further, but we have dived into this, we have reviewed it, and our insurance committees have voted that they do not see that this is the best fit for our employees right now. So I would love to work with him more and discuss different options and different avenues.
Okay, so you're everybody open to working together on that? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Representative Alexander. Okay. I think Representative Dixie was next on the list.
Quick question. Would this create like a new department? It seems like it's going to have additional FTEs in order to
So
do
it would
this.
not require us to have a new department. It would require us to have additional staff to our benefits administration, which is under the Department of Finance and Administration. There's a lot to this bill, and there's a lot of moving parts with it, but we would need some accountants, we would need some managers of the program, and we would require a lot of staff on the front end.
I think in the physical note it said around 7. I'm sure that's an estimate, of course, but once you get in, sometimes you need more, need less, but it would require a minimum of 7.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any more questions for our guest? Seeing none, thank you for being with us today. We'll go back into session. Do you have any more remarks for the committee?
I think I could probably respond to two things. First of all, the fiscal memo. This identifies the cost of the additional employees that F&A would want to administer the plan. But the fiscal note explicitly says that it does not attempt to quantify any cost savings. It doesn't say that there wouldn't be cost savings. It just says that it's uncertain. And so any of the cost savings that would offset the cost of the plan are not projected. And the other comment I would make is that when F&A and take Blue Cross Blue Shield, for example, when they contract with different providers, this plan would promote savings even within Blue Cross and Blue Shield and Cigna's contracted rates, because the rates that they contract, even if they happen to be the very best rates, there is a spread in these rates. Blue Cross Blue Shield will have contracted with different providers, and there'll be a dispersion of rates from high to low. And if our insured take particular rates that are lower, then that still saves the state money. So the way the plan would work, the state would benefit from a portion of the savings and the individual would benefit from a portion of the savings. This bill doesn't suggest that F&A has done a poor job with Blue Cross Blue Shield negotiating these rates. It's just saying anytime there's a spread of prices, even if they're the very best negotiated prices Blue Cross Blue Shield can get with providers, if we can direct and provide an incentive for state employees to move in the direction of lower cost providers, it will save the state money even within Blue Cross Blue Shield's framework. So I think when F&A and Blue Cross Blue Shield and Cigna say we're already working to lower costs, I'm not saying they're not. They've worked very, very hard to negotiate good rates. But because those rates aren't the same, because they vary, this plan provides an incentive for state employees, even within that structure, to save money. And of course, F&A doesn't offer any kind of shared saving plan like this that would provide positive reinforcement in the form of, 20% of the savings going to your health savings account. There's no kind of positive reinforcement that F&A offers right now, even though they have worked very hard to negotiate good rates.
Any more questions? Yes, Chairman Keeson.
You can read me, can't you, Shirley? Yeah, I do. I'm a co-signer on this one, and I think it's a great concept myself. But and maybe I should be the one to toss this out to you, Chairman Baum. A real summer study? Would you? I think I read you earlier that you and Sarah maybe be able to work together. Could I suggest maybe a motion to send this to summer study, a real summer study? Would you be offended if we did that?
My incentive is to use economic principles, to use competition to save the state money. Whatever the best path is to get to that end, I'm at the will of the committee.
Madam Chair, I see
You're
Mr.
recognized.
O'Neill giving an acknowledgement of that. In that case, I'm going to make a motion to send this to summer study, and I'm looking forward to working with you folks as well as the administration with that. Madam Chair, thank you.
There's been a motion to send this bill to summer study. Do I have a second on that motion? So that's what we will do, is send your bill to summer study.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Chair Lady, I know I got the next one, but I know I need a second for my second bill. Oh, forgive me. Go ahead. Amen.
I have another order of business before I forget.
Thank you, Chair.
I'm going to go ahead and take up an item on our special calendar, which is item number 2, House Bill 2890 by Chairman Todd. Do I have a motion and a second on this bill? Just a reminder to you members, we previously adopted 014225, but we have 2 new amendments that's been filed on this bill. Could you give me those drafting codes, Representative Todd?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The drafting code of the amendment that I would prefer to have on that rewrites the bill is drafting code 15492.
Okay, do we have a motion and a second on that amendment? Do we have a second? We do. The amendment makes the bill.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote on this amendment. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The amendment is on the bill. Representative or Chairman, should I say, please explain your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill defines adequate public notice for government bodies under the Open Meetings Act. Up to this point, most of that has kind of been left up to interpretation as to what is adequate. We put it in the court's hands, unfortunately, and they have made some rulings on it. And so I think it's time that we had a definite policy that said what adequate is. The overall goal of this bill is to make government more transparent so our citizens are aware of the meetings that take place and what is being discussed at those meetings. The bill has 4 key points. First, the governing body is required to post a notice of the meeting on its website if it has one, and either within a newspaper, social media website, or any other location where notice can be viewed, including a marquee sign, radio, or TV ads. This is in addition to whatever they're doing today. So we're just trying to expand what the public has access to for these public meetings without costing any government entities any money. The second thing it does, the contents of the notice must be described in the details of the meeting and the action to be taken, or the agenda, for example. The notice must be posted no less than 4 days prior to that meeting, and it must remain on the body's website until the meeting is held. It cannot be amended less than 4 days prior to the meeting. There's one critical point of this that I want to make. There is an exception for special called or emergency meetings that that body they can provide less than the 4 days notice, but no less than 48 hours notice prior to the meeting.
which is the common practice right now. So I've had some concern that, well, if the agenda changes in that time period, 4 or 5 days, then what do we do? And I said, well, you have the provision to call a special meeting with 48 hours notice, which is what they're doing now. So there should be no harm whatsoever, but it just expands where citizens can find these notices to make sure they're well informed. Each of you is aware, as I am, that we're not in charge. The people are in charge, and we need to make sure that they're informed of actions that possibly affect their rights and privileges as citizens of the state of Tennessee. With that, I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thank you for that explanation. Do we have any questions? Yes, Representative Dixie.
I had my public utility came with me, and I'm sure they probably talked to you about this. How would this impact what they're doing now? Because they feel like, and basically, I'll just kind of read you. They said it would create a hardship on their board because they meet monthly, but they require, and maybe this was before the amendment, they said the requirements are too stringent for them to meet, and that would inhibit them doing business of the utility. So have y'all worked through this, or can you speak to that?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for that question. There has been some confusion because we've had some different versions and folks weren't accessing the current version. And as we have gotten those into their hands or described exactly what it does, I haven't heard any opposition so far on that at all. I think we've taken care of everybody's concerns so far. And I believe the other point I'd like to make is I think we're building in some protection for the governmental bodies. Right now, they could still be sued and say, you didn't give me adequate notice, because the law just says adequate. Well, that's whose interpretation is that? So this gives you a box you can check. Say, I gave you 4 days notice. That's what the law says. So I've done my due diligence. So we tried to see that as a side benefit as well.
And the 48-hour requirement is for special meetings?
Special called or emergency meetings, which they already have right now. So that remains the same.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Leader Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chairman, it says homepage of the body's website, social media website, frequently trafficked news or consumer medium, including radio, television, marquee sign. Can they not do that now?
Yes, they can.
But
this just says, in addition to what they're doing now, which that's found in near the end of the bill, that is section D, the last section, in addition to the requirements they already have as of January 1 of this year, then they must add these items, their homepage of their website, and then one other thing, either the newspaper or social media page or any of those things that you just mentioned. So it would theoretically be in 3 places, whatever they're doing now on their website, and then one other place.
Am I reading this wrong, or does this require them not only all the other 6, but they are required to put it in the newspaper?
No, sir. No, sir.
No?
Or a medium or a marquee sign.
And, okay.
So there's an or there for a reason. We just wanted to give them another option, encourage them to put it in one more place.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And Leader Johnson touched on my concerns, which is still the same as they were the last time, is the or part of that, either or. And again, not everybody in my area has internet service. I mean, they're working, trying to get it there, but there's just, and they still rely pretty heavily on newspapers. And of course, some of them, they'll even do a public service announcement on a radio station, which is great, but a lot of people still rely on that. And with the word or there, either or, you're excluding one of the medias that our area still relies on pretty heavily. So I don't think that, I mean, I'm fine with them putting it on. I mean, we do it now. I mean, our county government has a website. They post everything on there. As soon as if there's something comes up, there's a change. But, and to Representative Dixie's concern about the utility boards, that same question was raised to me as well. So I don't feel like we've moved the needle on the amendment from where I was last time. So I would have to be a no on your bill.
Representative.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to clarify exactly what we're doing. So whatever they're doing today, we're not interrupting that. They keep doing that. If they're putting it in a newspaper today, they keep doing that. Whatever they were doing as of January 1st, that's one of the last clauses in here. January 1st of this year, they keep doing that. And then if they have a website, they add it to the website. And then one more thing, whatever that one more thing is, if they want to use a newspaper, a public service announcement on a TV or radio, they want to put it on a marquee. We actually had somebody say, well, I put it on a marquee. I don't know how you do that on an agenda, but if they find a way, then that's fine. I want to leave all the options on the table. So this is more flexibility than hindrance, actually. That's why the or is there. Just do one more thing in addition to your website, if you have one, that doesn't, you can choose one that doesn't cost you a dime of money. And then we built in, we made sure that we kept in here the special call meetings, because things do change. You may have an agenda that you put out 4 days ahead of time, and then something comes up. Utility trucks that we ordered last year, now we've gotten word that it's going to be 2 more years. So we've got another vendor that can fill that, but we've got to give them a contract by X number of days. So we're going to have a special call meeting 5 minutes after the regular meeting that's already been announced. Give 48 hours notice, which is what they're doing now, what they expect to do now. All of them have told me that. We don't give anything shorter than 48 hours notice. So this gives them that same option to do that, what they do today.
What my concern is that the ideal that to me, when you say or, that means that I don't have to put it in a certain media. I can choose not to put it, say, and post it in a paper. I could choose to just do the website, and you've eliminated a great deal of people up in our area that would not have access to it if they chose to do that. I don't know of any marquees up there that they put the agenda on or anything. So it's pretty heavily relied on. Still printed media is still, I mean, I know they're putting the lid on the coffin, but I just feel like that if you say, or, you've left the door open to exclude one type of media. If they so choose, if they could say, I'm not going to do it, and we'll just put it on the internet and that's it.
Madam Chair, if you'll notice in the very last paragraph of the bill, of the amendment, the notice requirements of this section are in addition to other notices required by law or already in practice as of January 1 of this year. So whatever they were doing a couple of months ago, they have to keep doing. So if they're relying on a newspaper now, they got to keep doing that. We're not changing that. This just adds their website. And if they have one, I don't expect them to go spend money to create a website. Only if they have one, that's in there. And then one more thing, and that can be social media, that can be a marquee, as we talked about, or a radio PSA. Absolutely. It does not take away from what they're doing today at all.
That was my number one concern. And I think I'm getting the nod over there that is correct, that they will have to continue posting as well as using some form of social media.
We very carefully put that in there. Make sure that we don't lose anything that we already have.
That makes a difference. Thank you.
Chairman Powers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you. Just a question. You mentioned the 48-hour what about that, I think we talked about this one time before about the agenda that they're having for the meeting, and there's just a slight change. That's not going to bump the meeting up. Is it, like, say might even be a deletion, of one item or whatever. And then do they violate that 5-day notice because they've made a change in that?
nothing prohibits them making a change at the meeting. If there's something changes last minute and they need to take something off the agenda, nothing changes about that. They can do that now, and we're not taking that provision away from them.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, man. So if something happens 2 or 3 days prior to it within that 5-day period, and they have to delete something or add something on there, that's still part of that provision then, right?
I would say taking something off, if you add something, I think that could be a concern. I'm trying to make sure they don't get in a lawsuit. And that's one of my biggest concerns here, because the public is starting to watch this more and more, and they're very concerned about what's adequate notice and not. So by defining it like we have here, but still leaving the options to make sure they give that public notice that's necessary. Right now, that situation, they're giving 48 hours notice. Everybody's told me that. We don't ever give less than 48 hours notice. So I think that if they put that out, that we're having a special call meeting on this item that just came up 5 minutes after we adjourn the regular call meeting, you've met the requirements.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any more questions? Yes, Representative Alexander.
Thank you, Chairman. Can you tell me what you changed in this bill in the last week from when it was in committee before? How did we make it better?
So we have taken the 5 days notice to 4 days.
To
Of
4
course, the
days.
legislature gives at least 5 days notice, and that's why I
Okay.
started with that number. But
Okay.
it made some uncomfortable, so we went to 4 days.
Okay.
And I think clarifying the paragraph about either a newspaper or radio or TV and all that, and with an or instead of an and,
Okay.
that was a mistake we found. I'm trying to think of anything else. Those are the big ones that stick out. And we clarified in that paragraph, we had some other wording in there that was a little confusing about, we were trying to make it a really broad option for people to use. And so we used media of general circulation. Well, what is that? So we had enough questions. Okay, let's just put some down here instead of using those words. Let's be a little more specific, and still allow options, plenty of options there.
Thank you, Chair.
Any more questions? Chairman Kiesling.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. What, I have not received anything from TML or TCSA or Tennessee County Services Association over this, or not. I don't know. What provoked this? If any specific thing that generated this, Chairman?
You're
Thank
recognized.
you, Madam Chair. I just conversations with constituents, and I've heard it across the state. Once I started asking about that, folks just had a concern about, what is adequate notice? We've had a court, or courts say it's at least 48 hours, but obviously we've got to set the time of what truly adequate is. And so that's what this effort's about. And again, I want to build in the protection too, because folks are, entities are still being sued because they didn't give adequate notice, but they've given what a court said was the minimum, or did they? So it leaves too many questions, and I thought it was best to just lay it out. The other concern was about the agenda. I've heard of organizations that post first of the year, here's when all of our meetings are for the whole year. But you don't know what those meetings are about. They don't put the agenda out. So you don't know until it's, right next to the time, maybe 48 hours. So let's make sure we give folks, it's all about trying to make sure our citizens know what's going on in our governing bodies.
Certainly. Well, certainly, I'm for transparency. That's for sure. Do we have, Madam Chair? Is there anyone that has asked for testimony in opposition to this bill? No. Okay. Well, I was just checking. All right. Well, Chairman, thank you very much. Chair Lee, thank you.
Leader Johnson. Okay. You're okay. Question's been called on the bill. So all in favor of this bill, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. No. The noes have it.
Thank you.
Your bill fails. Thank you. I have been asked, I have been asked by the sponsor to take up item number 28, which is House Bill 2533 by Representative Warner. Do we have a motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Do we have a second? We do not have a second on your bill. Your bill fails for lack of a second.
You got to be joking me.
We will be go back to our regular. Where were we on number what? 14. We'll go back to number 14, which is House Bill 2332 by Representative Pearson. Do we have a motion and a second on this bill? We have a motion. Do we have a second? Again, your bill. We have no second, and your bill fails for lack of a second. We have item number 15, which is House Bill 2338, also by Representative Pearson. Do we have a motion and a second? We do have a motion. Do we have a second? We do not. House Bill 2338 also fails for a lack of a second. Thank you. Item number 16 is HJR 674 by Representative Hardaway. He's here. Representative Hardaway. Do we have a motion and a second? We have a motion and a second. There are no amendments filed. And so, Representative, please explain your bill.
If I can get some cooperation out of my. All right, we are on which one again?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're on item number 16, which is HJR 674.
Madam Chair, could you roll me 2 spots while I pull this together
Sure.
on my.
You have the next. You want both of them rolled?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We have item number 17, which 18. Okay, we're going to 18. Okay. Now we're on item number 18, which is House Bill 1615 by Representative Ritchie. Do we have a motion and a second on this bill? Do we have a second? We do not have a second on your bill, so it dies for lack of a second. Next up is item number 19, which is House Bill 1818 by Representative Butler. Do we have a motion and a second? Do we have a second? We do have an amendment. Could you give us a drafting code, Representative Butler?
Thank you, Chair Lady. Drafting code is 14054.
That is correct. Do we have a motion and a second on this amendment? Have a motion and a second on the amendment. Let's go ahead and put it on the bill. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, the amendment goes on the bill, and you're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you, Chair Lady. This legislation would create a process for recall for non-constitutional elected officials. The amendment clarifies that in order to recall someone, you would have to have 66% of the votes cast for that individual in the last regular election to be able to recall them. So this legislation is similar to what's in Georgia. It's been used twice in the last 40 years as it's amended. And it does not include, I want to be clear, it does not include county commissioners or any elected official that's outlined in the Constitution. So this would apply to school board members, to city aldermen, city elected officials. There might be road superintendents would fall under this. And so it won't address the county commissioners or anybody defined under the Constitution. With that, I'll stand for questions.
Do we have any questions? Yes, Representative Dixie.
So this apply to like appointed commissioners on the state level?
You're recognized.
This wouldn't apply to a county commissioner at all.
No, I meant, so for instance, like the Department of Health, their commissioner. No.
You're
Thank you,
recognized.
Chair Lady. This would not apply to
So
those.
this is basically just only on a local level.
Yes, that is correct. It would be a local level.
Question's been called. All in favor of House Bill 1818, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. I'm a no.
Thank you, committee.
Oh, it moves out to full committee.
Thank you.
Ayes have it. Okay, 16. Okay, we're back to item number 16, which is HJR 674 by Representative Hardaway. Do we have a motion and a second? No amendments filed. You're recognized to explain your bill, Representative.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your patience and understanding. HJR 674 is an urgent resolution that I actually had discussion with some of the members of the General Assembly over the last couple of years, and it's designed to get a different tone than we have now by fostering a better understanding of what's really causing some of the dissension that's at times flared up within the General Assembly. And I'm trying to keep it general and generic, but I want this urging resolution to serve to give the impetus to the administration, our legislative administration, to do something that we had actually talked about doing a couple of times back in previous General Assemblies. And with that cryptic explanation, I would ask for an affirmative vote on this.
Do we have any questions for our sponsor? Are we ready to vote? Do we have any questions? Okay, looks like we're ready to vote on this resolution. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Looks like the ayes have it, and you move on to full committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You also have item number 17, which is House Bill 350 by Representative Hardaway, and we need a motion and a second. We have that, and there are no amendments. So, Representative, please tell us what your bill is all about.
Madam Chair, there are times when, unfortunately, our law enforcement officers may not be as trustworthy as they take the oath to be, and this speaks to that. It requires that information be shared. They follow the statutory procedure to share that information, disclose that information of the officer's behavior to defense counsel in a criminal proceeding, and that's a statutory requirement now.
Are you ready for questions?
Yes, ma'am,
okay.
I am.
Representative Alexander.
Representative Hardaway, can you tell me, what do they do now? I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out what you're trying to get to here. I apologize.
And no need for the apology because it's taken me a while to figure it out too. But there are instances where information is not being shared.
In a court case.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes,
In a-
ma'am.
in a court case. Okay.
And because of that, you don't have justice anytime you got untrustworthy testimony. Then unfortunately, sometimes that comes from officers. That information should be shared, and it's not always done in that manner. So this is designed to put that requirement specifically in the statute that that information on untrustworthy law enforcement officers will be shared. So hopefully it will keep us from calling those folks in the first place and proceed with a better strategy so that we have, when we have prosecutions, that they're based on reliable testimony.
Can I
Yes,
go
go
ahead and
ahead.
ask the question? Is the DA's office on board with this language of this bill?
I haven't had any communications from the DA's conference, but the DAs that I've spoken with individually are on board with it.
The DA himself, I'm sorry. Is that what you're saying? The DA is on board with it, or the conference is not on? I'm sorry.
No, I have not had communications with the DA conference, the DA's conference.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure if they had a problem, they would have let me know. But the individual DAs I've spoken with are supportive.
Okay. Thank you.
Representative Hardaway, do you know what the position of your bill is in the Senate?
It's in general sub, but I'm pretty sure that Senator Agberry will pull that bill up as soon as she finds out how much you think about it here in this fantastic subcommittee. And I think I failed, Madam Chair, when I came in to tell you how lovely you're looking today.
Good try, sir. Good try. But thank you. Thank you very
And that's no matter what happens. To
No
this
matter
bill.
what happens. Questions have been called. All in favor of, I got to get back to my House Bill 350. Please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. Your bill fails.
Thank you, Madam Chair,
You're
for
most welcome
engaging.
and most gracious.
Thank you, committee. 50%. I could be a billionaire playing baseball.
Next up, we have item number 20, which is House Bill 2649 by Representative McKenzie. We're going to roll to the hill. That brings us up to item number 21, which is House Bill 2618 by Representative Gillespie. We have a motion. Do we have a second? We do. There is an amendment. Could you please give me that drafting code?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is 015356.
That's correct. And do we have a motion and a second on this amendment? We do. The amendment makes the bill, so we're going to put it on the bill. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, so the amendment goes on the bill. Representative, you're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair and Committee. This is a pretty straightforward bill. What it says is it requires a nonprofit organization has a MOU with their district attorney or a district attorney revolving to policies and strategies regarding cash bail that they provide if requested by the Speaker of the House and the Speaker of the Senate to list their donors, I believe, over the top 5% of their donors. And it would exclude certain educational and medical organizations. With that, I welcome any questions.
Yes, Chairman Keesley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could you put that more in perspective for me? Maybe not the rest, but give me an example here.
Sure.
Chair.
Sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. So, unfortunately, there are some organizations out there, both in the state of Tennessee and across the nation, that have ideas that conflict with, I think, my values and a lot of our values as Tennesseans. And right now, they're currently kind of behind the scenes in cahoots with different DAs, with MOUs, and this is just to require, if you have an organization that you're working with that's a nonprofit that's trying to circumvent the will of the General Assembly, that your donors would be open to the public. Or, excuse me, as amended, they would be open up to the Speaker of the House or Speaker of the Senate.
Any more questions? Yes.
Not for me. Thank you, Madam
okay.
Chair. Thank you, Representative Gillespie.
Before I ask the question, I want to make sure we're on the right bill. It's 2618. Okay. I was just reading, it says related to cash bail. Does this bill have to do with the trying to think of the name, the community bail, I guess, organizations that work, is that have, would this impact them?
Thank you. There are several organizations. I'm not going to go into, because there are certain organizations that have MOUs and certain ones that do not. This is just simply addressing if you want to enter into an MOU with an organization that, in my opinion, and I think the opinion of the General Assembly, conflicts with some of the laws we previously passed. This opens up your donors to the inspection of our speakers.
Okay. That's a very, very vague explanation. And I was just curious that because this, none of your explanation said anything about cash bail. I just was reading it through this. So I was just trying to get some transparency and actually what you're trying to do. He asked for an example. You really didn't give an example. You just kind of talked around in generality what the bill does. But I was saying, can you help me? And it's not to my colleague here. It's not just him that not understanding. I think maybe he's rubbing off on me, but I'm just having a hard time understanding what this actually does.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Like I said, so if you have the ABC Nonprofit Corporation of America and they are under an MOU with the County of Acme, then this would require that they disclose their top 5% of their highest donors over the amount of $25,000 to the speakers of the House and the Senate if they request. It's a transparency bill. It's my opinion that there's certain organizations out there that are trying to circumvent the will of the General Assembly by applying pressure, by entering into contracts with local DAs to circumvent our laws of the state. And this is just adding a added layer of transparency. And I will also add that this bill has already passed in the Senate at a much broader version.
You're recognized.
Two quick things. One is, I'm not sure how much transparency it provides if only the Speaker of the House and the Speaker of the Senate have this information. And then two, by disclosing the top 5 donors, what does that accomplish? Because unless I misunderstood what you're saying about disclosing the top 5 donors.
Thank you. Not top 5 donors, top 5% of the donors.
Okay.
And the reason we added, so both United States Supreme Court President and State of Tennessee President, as well as previous laws enacted by Congress and the General Assembly, protect donor information very significantly. So that's why I put those safeguards in there to not let it be accessible to just anyone. And that way we've narrowed it down to the speakers of the House and the speakers of the Senate. I hope that answers that part of that.
It doesn't. It's just I don't understand. It's not transparent, and I don't understand. Like, even if we get the top 5% of the donors, what are we accomplishing? Just to say, I don't know. I just don't know what the goal is here.
You're recognized.
Thank you. I think the goal would be to be able to say to the DA, we disagree with these organizations that you're under an MOU with, and we're gonna speak volumes. That's the entire purpose of this bill. And I would say anyone in fundraising would definitely understand that, which is what my job is.
Oh, I'm done.
Okay, Chairman Keesling.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, thank you again, Representative Gillespie. Madam Chairman, do you mind if we go out? Could you call us out and say, I'd like for us to direct our attention to our counsel and get an explanation from him, and maybe
Okay,
hopefully a better understanding from me.
We're going
if
to go
you
out of
would. Thank you.
session and speak with legal.
Matt Mundy from Legal. Is the question just my general understanding of what the bill does? So the bill would allow either speaker to request certain information if certain things happen. Those things being if you have a DA that's in contract with or an MOU with a nonprofit organization, and they have in the aggregate donated more than $25,000, you would be able to find out who their top five, the lesser of the top 5 donors or the top 5% of the donors in the previous calendar year based on those aggregate donations. If they have an MOU in place or a contract in place with the DA for cash bail. So I don't know the context in which the bill's being brought, but the donors of the nonprofit would be those 5% or 5 top donors. If they had donated at least in the aggregate $25,000, those donors would be subject to disclosure to the speakers. If they have one of those MOUs and contracts in place with the DA.
Thank you.
Anything else for legal?
I have no
Anybody
other
else have anything
questions.
for
Thank you,
legal?
Madam Chair.
We're going to go back into session. Do we have any more questions for our sponsor? Yes, Chairman Powers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll give an example. If we've been talking about it, George Soros donated $625,000 to a Texas Justice and Public Safety PAC group, a nonprofit that backed the election of one Travis County DA in Texas. $652,000 just to get one DA in. That's an example of a progressive DA that's trying to get these elected all over the country. And I think that's an example of maybe what this bill might be, but I'd have to go back to the sponsor to do it. But thank you for bringing this.
Anything else, sponsor, the bill?
Yep. I
Okay.
renew my motion.
We have another question from Representative Dixon. Oh, we're in session. Yes, sir.
Again, even if given his example, you don't know if that person had an MOU with the DA. With that, my goal, I guess maybe I'm just not hearing it. What's the purpose? All of us receive dollars from somewhere else, and we get expended. What's it called? We get money from other places that we don't disclose some of our donors. So why wouldn't we not do it for everybody as far as independent expenditures is what I'm saying. That's the word I'm trying to come up with. We're doing some of our campaigns. And sometimes, outside organizations do stuff for us or send mailers on our behalf. We may not know their top 5% of the donors or 5%. So why are we focusing on this particular area? But the one last thing I would like to ask, because I am in the bail bonding industry, I would like to abstain from this vote. So I just wanted to get that out there.
Questions been called on the bill? All in favor of House Bill 2618, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it, and you move on to full committee.
Thank you so much.
I think you're also.
I believe that bill's been taken off notice.
I got you.
Thank you all.
Item number 22, House Bill 823 by Representative Gillespie has been taken off notice. Okay. Okay. Item number 24, which is House Bill 2387 by Representative Fritz, has been taken off notice. We're going to take up item number 25, which is House Bill 694 by Representative Fritz. We have a motion and a second, and there are no amendments. And so, Representative, please explain your bill.
Seeking to reaffirm that all legal work is honorable and serves purposes in our communities, and reaffirm that each Tennessean has a right to pursue a lawful career of their choosing, and reaffirming the basic civil right of earning a living. We looked back over 3 years ago, and we got lots of guidance from our friends in D.C. about who's essential and who's not. And it seems to me that this is an opportunity for us to set straight in the state of Tennessee that all God's creatures are essential in what they have been asked or chosen to do as a career. In the name of public health, the government established a list of essential occupations, and those occupations not designated essential were not permitted to work. I bring this to you all on behalf of barbers and cosmetologists and bartenders and brewers who in many cases find themselves in a calling rather than just a profession. I bring this to you with an assertion that it's government's role to protect the rights of citizens, and it's not our role to pick winners and losers. And I think this is a way that we can certainly affirm this going forward. Offer just a couple quick things, and I appreciate your all's time this afternoon. This bill in no way restricts county mayors, city mayors, governors, whatever, from being able to control emergencies. It just simply states that you can't declare someone non-essential based on their occupation. And it does give that person a right of civil recourse if they're damaged by it. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Do we have any questions? Motion's been called. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Looks like the ayes have it, and you're moving on to full
Madam
committee.
Chair and committee, thank y'all.
Yes. Item number 26, HJR 717 by Representative Hakeem, a very patient man. Do we have a motion and a second on this bill? We do. And we do have an amendment. And so would you give me your drafting code, please?
Yes, ma'am. That's 015294.
Okay. Do we have a motion and a second on this amendment? Motion and a second on the amendment. The amendment makes the bill, and so we're going to put it on that bill. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. So the amendment now is on the bill, and Representative, would you please explain that bill?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Citizens in my own district and from some other parts of the state have shared an interest with me that they desire to, if we would give consideration to a constitutional amendment that would allow citizens to bring forth initiatives that they feel are important to the state as well as to local communities. What we've done is to, in addition to that, talking with people, is to talk with the Secretary of State in regards to process and procedure. And what we're trying to do is to allow, as I said, people to have the opportunity to say to our governmental bodies throughout the state and to an ability for citizens to express themselves through an initiative. Now, to bring forth an initiative, it would have to be approved or accepted by the legislature, both House and Senate. The only way that it could move forward would be for those bodies to move it forward or to not take a vote at all. or of course, there's an opportunity for this effort to be nullified by a no vote. And so we're asking if this body would give consideration to allowing this to move forward so that voices can be heard from the citizens. Sometimes I feel like people feel as though they don't have a voice because, you know, it's not heard, we're saying, from a statewide perspective. And asking you if you would please give this consideration. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Do we have any questions? Chairman Keesling.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if I understand, thank you, Representative Hakeem. So if I understand this correctly, so they literally have to, this is for people who want to bring forth legislation.
Yes,
then,
sir.
by way of a petition, then, if you will,
Yes,
signing
sir.
a petition. Okay. You know I like you very much, and I no, I do, and I respect you.
Yes, sir.
I really do.
Okay.
Philosophically, though, I'm going to have to just differ with you on this one.
Yes, sir.
And with all, you know, with all kindness in my heart to you, I'm
Yes, sir.
going to I'm going to have to vote down on this one. But I appreciate you being with us
Yes,
today.
sir.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Representative Alexander.
I'm just trying to figure out why we need this. Because if they could, why wouldn't they just do a regular bill? Like, why wouldn't they come to you, Hakeem, and do a bill?
Yes, ma'am.
Why would they need a petition?
Okay.
Okay. Can you explain that to me? And can you give me an example of one?
All right. I guess 3 examples of issues that I think are very important to people: housing, women's rights, reproductive rights, and guns, and how we've had problems in regards to shootings and so forth. And to use that as an example, I believe that in the House, there was an effort to hear the voices of the people. But both bodies could not come to, in a sense, an understanding on what needs to be heard and how it needs to be done. And I'm going to use the term, there was not a release valve for those persons who had that interest to want to be heard. And what light in the minds of the citizens does that put us in? And so I hope I gave you an example. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I think next we have Chairman Powers.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Representative Hakeem. The thing I was wondering about, and part of it was answered just then, I guess one question is, where did the 3% number come from? Is that a number that other states have used or in the past, or where did that number come from?
Originally, in the original draft, we had 5%, and I believe it differs with states. And the thought was that in using the governor's race as where we would use that from would be 5% of that, and that's close to 100,000 persons. And you know, we're not locked in to that percentage, but we wanted to use one that was attainable. But if the body saw fit to raise that, so be it.
Yeah. One other question too, and going back to what Chairman Keesling said and Representative Alexander, when we live in a representative republic, and so you would think that if there is that number that we have the right to petition according to the Constitution. So generally speaking, that's right to petition that person that's representing you, to file a bill or to do that, rather than going through the petition process as far as just actual names, like we would in a local bill or a local, law, but in the state part where we're electing representatives like that, I, I, I think that they should come to you, and I'm like Representative Alexander, to come to you and say, hey, I need you to file this bill and go through the whole process. And that's why I can't support it. I'm sorry. I appreciate you bringing it forward, and I understand, but I just think that that's already built into our process, what we need to do to have their voices heard. And if you don't listen to their voice, they won't elect you the next year. So we always know that 2-year limit's always around the corner. But thank you again.
Yes, sir.
Question's been called, so we're ready to vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed?
Okay.
The noes have it, and your bill fails.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members.
And that takes us to item number 29. I'm getting there, and that is House Bill 2419 by Representative Barrett. We have a motion. Do we have a second? We do. No amendments. Representative, please explain your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members, for the motion. The second, y'all were making me sweat a little bit earlier today. I think Jesus said, Book of Matthew, that the last shall be first and the first shall be last. So it's good to be with you all this evening. House Bill 2419 just seeks to clarify an issue in Title 10 of the code as it relates to public records requests and how those are adjudicated through the court system. And this bill would basically just eliminate the situation where a third party could come in and intervene into a lawsuit to adjudicate one of these requests. And just to kind of give you a little bit of information as to why this is needed. I mean, you know, we understand that public records law provides a special expedited judicial review process, and there's a reason for that, so that we can get these things handled quickly and we can eliminate costs or hold costs down and not drag these things out. Unfortunately, the Court of Appeals in a recent ruling changed the law by saying that a third party could intervene in such a petition and argue for non-disclosure of a record. The court said that because the statute in Title 10 does not specifically prohibit third-party interveners, it is allowed. So that's why this bill has been brought. We're hoping to clean this up and make it a little bit easier for citizens to be able to get access to these public records. And with that, Madam Chair, I will stand ready for questions.
Do we have any questions? Question's been called. All in favor of House Bill 2419, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and you move on to full committee.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you
and
for your
congratulations to you all for making it to the end.
We are going to wait a few minutes on Representative Dixie. Our Sergeant of Arms has gone to try to locate him. Item number 30, which is House Bill 2418 by Representative Dixie, has been taken off notice. So that complete. Been a long day. I have really good backup here. That completes our regular calendar.
Sorry, any bills not taken up have been taken off notice.
And any bills that have not been taken up, have been taken off notice. Representative Kiesling, did you have something?
Well, I certainly do. This being our last calendar, I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate you. You've had a few challenging times, Chair Lady, but I really mean that. Thank you very much for a
Well,
job well done. And, thank you.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome. I want to recognize all of you and all the help that you've given me, and these guys and my LA Kim. I couldn't do it without them, and so thank you to our Sergeant at Arms for all of his help tonight and always. And it's been a pleasure. So, Chairman Kiesling.
All right, final thing, I move that we adjourn, subject to the call of the chair.
We are adjourned, and this committee is closed, subject to the call of the chair.